Oh, Tally, thank you so much, darling. Thank you. My name is Polly Pistol, and I'm an alcoholic. By God's grace, in a program called Alcoholics Anonymous, I haven't had a drink since April the 11th of 1977. And for that, I am eternally grateful. I have a home group, and that's the West Connect group in Jacksonville, Florida. We meet at 6 o'clock on Sunday night. It's a speakers meeting. And we meet at Monday night at 7 o'clock, and that's a topic meeting. I have a sponsor, the amazing Rena Kay, and she has a sponsor, I sponsor, and the women I sponsor, and so on and so forth. And I am so delighted to be here. Thank you so much, Allie, for inviting me to come. Thank you so much. And I want to apologize because when I get through speaking, I'm going to get off because my son is here visiting. And I want to try to spend some time with him. So that's what I'm going to do. So please accept my apologies. Also, I am most delighted to hear my friend Jimmy. Oh my God. Honey, you absolutely gave the most amazing talk. And I met Jimmy at a retreat house in New Jersey some years ago. And I was invited there to do the big book and a little weekend retreat. And I have been seeing Jimmy and Alcoholics Anonymous along the way ever since. And this is a man who's in service. And that's what I'm saying about all of the people on this today. I'm like Jimmy. I haven't ever heard John speak, but I will definitely hear him. It won't be today, but I will hear him because from what I hear, he is an amazing man. But I am very privileged to know Jimmy. I am very privileged to know Teresa, and I am very privileged to know Ralph. And all I can say is those three people have been touching my life for a lot of years. And I am so grateful that they're in my life. And anytime I'm in their presence or can speak, I love it. One of the things that I have enjoyed is Zoom. My gosh, we just get to see people all over the world. It's absolutely amazing. And I am so grateful that we have this technology. Now, having said that, I am so technically challenged. And when Allie says, "Where's Polly?" And I wanted to wave, "I'm here." And the next thing I know, my screen it just drops. I don't know what to do. My son is here, but he's off in another room and he's technically challenged. But all of a sudden, I just took my little mouse and hit something and it came back. So I don't know how that happened, but I am so grateful because I started to get that really anxious thing. Oh my God, I'm never going to get this fixed. So at any rate, I am so honored to be here. And I am so honored to be a part of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I've seen a lot of the women that I get to sponsor, which is such a privilege. That's on this Zoom. So thank you. When I came to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I believed in God. I was brought up in the church. I was brought up by loving parents. Now, having said that, I was brought up by loving parents. I had no idea how really loving they were until I came to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I was able to see who my parents were. Because see, whatever that is inside of me that makes me bodily and different from my fellows has always been there. I've always had those feelings of not measuring up, of not being enough, always had those feelings. And it certainly isn't because I had parents who were putting me down, were yelling at me, were hitting me. Now, I became that parent. That's the parent I became, but I was not raised that way. But what happened, for whatever reason, I could never see how wonderful my parents were. I could only see what they weren't. And one of the things that was the hardest for me growing up, I'm 81 years old. And when I was a little girl, mothers didn't work, but my mother. And what happened is that I felt different because of that. I felt different because my mother worked, because little girls couldn't come over to my house after school because my mother wasn't at home. I was a latchkey kid before it was ever popular. All of these things happened. And instead of seeing the good in all that and the beauty of what wonderful parents I had and how out of self they were and how sacrificing they were, I didn't see it that way. I just saw that they weren't home. That's what I saw. So coming to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous has opened my eyes in so many ways. The other thing is God. Because, see, I love the treasure map. I love the book being called The Treasure Map, because the treasure is a relationship with God, a relationship that you can feel, that you can taste, that you can depend on. And a lot of times I let that relationship slip. Even in sobriety, I let that relationship slip. And I am one of these people that I get a daily reprieve contingent on my spiritual life for that one day. And what happens is that I get one day, and I had a sponsor that told me, Holly, you cannot live on yesterday's recovery. You've got to live on today's recovery. So every single day counts in my relationship and in this journey. And what I know today, and I got one of the most, Mildred F. is one of my most favorite people on the planet. And she just has a way of saying things that just are so clear. And one of the things that she makes clear to me is what life is a spiritual classroom. That's what life is. And what we do is we get to learn the lessons of whatever we need to learn in this life. And that's what I take from it, is whatever my lessons are in this journey to my spiritual is going to, for me to grow spiritually. So one of the things that I have had a lot of awakenings in the last week. Now, I am almost, in a couple of months, not even a couple of months, I am going to be 45 years sober. That's a long time between drinks. I'm going to be 45 years sober. And right now, this minute, I am probably doing more acceptance and more growing in my life than I have in a really long time. And what I see is that we're never too sober to be able to be told, to do it a different way. What I am so grateful for is when I came into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I came through a treatment center. Now, I am the kind of mom that I loved my children with all my heart and soul. I had 2 sons, but I would take a drink of alcohol and I would turn into another person. And what I did is I abused my children. I would hit them. I would scream at them. I would put them down. I did terrible abusive things to my son. And what would happen is I would come to see what I had done to my sons and felt so horrible about it that what I would do is take another drink. Now, today, I am the most forgiven. I'm not the most, but I know that I'm not the most, but I am so forgiven. My sons have so forgiven me. Especially it's my oldest son now, but my youngest son. He's 38 years sober, and I have got to walk with him in this program for 38 years. My oldest son is 4 years sober. He found this program when he was 59. Now, what I want to say is if you love somebody who's an alcoholic, or you don't even know, I wasn't even sure he was an alcoholic. I knew he had a lot of problems, but I didn't know that he was an alcoholic. I just knew that there was a wedge between him and I. And I got to be with him on March 8th of 2020. And I was at a meeting with him in Southern California. Paula was on, and she was also at that meeting. And I was with him at that meeting. And when that meeting was over, my son hugged me and he told me he loved me. And I don't know about any of you, but I've been waiting a very long time to hear that. And what I know today is that God's timing is perfect. And I was talking with him last night. And I'm getting a party for my 45th. And my son is coming. He is coming to Florida. And it's been a long, long time since my son has visited me. I left Southern California, and this will be the first time. And I am so grateful that that's happening. And I know what magic this program, what this program does to people's souls and their loving and their relationship with God. I get to see it all the time. And I am experiencing that. And I'm so, so grateful because that wedge that was between us isn't there anymore. And it's just amazing. So one of the things I'd like to share is that this is not going to be my normal talk because I've had a lot of awarenesses. I've absolutely had a spiritual awakening. And I have an amazing sponsor, and by the name of Rena Kay. And she is a sponsor that I try to be like a sponsor too. She doesn't say anything to you that's not from love. She doesn't say anything to you that she doesn't believe that she is going to help you. And I feel that way about the women I sponsor too. And this past Friday, it's just been a little over a week, not this past Friday, Friday before last. She called me on the phone and she said, "Polly, you need help." And I am today the caregiver for my husband. And I have been for the past 6 years. He has been sick. And in that 6 years, I have become very beaten down from this task. And so many of the women that I sponsor have been trying to tell me that. As my son said at dinner last night, James said to me, "Well, I've been telling you this for several years, but you won't listen to me. Thank God you're listening to Rena." And what happened is she said, "You have got to get help." Well, the deal is I don't have a lot of money. And I didn't know, I mean, to get help costs money. If when you get people to come in and stay, and so you can be freed up to do things, that's what happens. It's not for free. And what happened is she said, "You're going to get help, and I don't want you to worry about anything. Someone anonymously does not wish to be known is going to help you. And I want to know who you get to help. They are to report to me, and it's going to be taken care of." Now, I'm 81 years old. I don't take orders like that. My gosh, I couldn't, I was just like, you can't, you can't let people do things like that. You can't let people love you that way. I just couldn't believe that this was happening. And of course, when I tell the women I sponsor what happened, they're looking at me like, well, we've been saying that. We have been telling you that. But what happened is, one of the things that I know about the disease of alcoholism and have learned in this program, you can hear when you can hear. And sometimes that takes a lot of somebody saying, it's like, if you just stop drinking, everything would be okay. Well, that's not the problem. That's not the problem. That's not what's wrong with me. What's wrong with me is this, this, and this. And so what happened is I surrendered. I did one of the things that I've had many surrenders in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I have just had another surrender, a huge surrender to let people do for me what I am obviously incapable of doing. It is too much. And what I'm just floored by this awakening that I have had and how God works through other people. I don't know how God shows up for you, but what God does is he shows up in the people in my life. And I have these amazing women that have been stepping up to the plate and stepping up to the plate. Paul has been flying across country from Illinois to help me time after time. And the women here in town have been doing that. And what is happening is I'm going to be able to get someone to come in and be with Dave for a little bit. And maybe I'm going to get to go to a conference and go to a few places that I haven't been able to do. And it's just absolutely amazing. So what I want to say, there's people on this Zoom today, and I know you're new at Alcoholics Anonymous, and you think, oh my gosh, this is absolutely, I'm so grateful to be sober. I'm so grateful to have these people in my life. Let me tell you something. It's just the beginning, because what happens is it gets better and it gets better and it gets better. And what happens is we get to have one more spiritual awakening. And you know what? I know it's not the last one. I'm telling you, this one has been huge, because what I've had to do is surrender and let people help me in a way that I felt like I was imposing on people. I was, you can't ask people to do things like that. That's, it's just, that was just kind of the way I just felt like it was too much. But what happens is sometimes you have to just be hit over the head a bunch of times before you can get the message. So spiritual growth never stops. It never stops. And the awakening and the relationship that I feel today with the God of my understanding, I wasn't real happy with the way it came, because I got intervened on going to treatment. I know a lot about interventions, And that's what I felt like happened. I had an intervention. But you know what? The good news is God has been sending messenger after messenger after messenger, giving me the same thing. And finally, I heard it. And it came from the amazing Rena Kay. And what has happened is that I have surrendered, and I am going to let other people help me with my husband. And I know he's going to like it a whole lot better, because the person who's going to come in and help him, it's not going to be all ragged from being so tired. So life is a spiritual classroom. And one of the things for me is that I have never stopped doing this program. Never. My life is full of Alcoholics Anonymous. My life is full of Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. I go to a lot of meetings when we go live. Since Zoom's come, I have gone to at least one meeting a day, and most of the time, two. I have gone to a lot of meetings in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I am so grateful, because I need every meeting I've ever been to, and I still need the meetings that are to come. The relationship with God is amazing. I've had so many spiritual awakenings in this program. And I want to start with, when I first got sober, I was in a treatment center, and I was in this treatment center, but I had been to a detox center twice before. And in this detox center, there was a man there by the name of Frank H., and he was the director of that detox center. And he had also rescued me out of a motel room in Euless, Texas, when I had drank, and brought me back into that detox center. And while I got court committed to treatment, my husband had me court committed to treatment. And in that treatment center, they told us that we needed to get a sponsor. And I didn't know really how to get a sponsor. So I called up Frank, and I asked him if he'd be my sponsor. And he said yes. He said, but don't call me while you're in treatment. Just be at my house when you get out. And when I got out of treatment, I was at his house. But in the 6 weeks I was in treatment, what happened is that people from the outside would come in, and they'd take us to meetings. People from the outside would come in, and they'd bring us the book and the 12 and 12, and they would read to us. They would do all of these things. And I began to fall in love with the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that passion that I have for this program has never left me. I still have that passion, and I still can take sponsored direction, because the first sponsor direction I ever got was, don't call me when you're in treatment, but be at my house the day you get out. And I was at Frank's house the day I got out. And what happened is that day, I announced to him that I was on step 6, because I was in a treatment center, that of course you gave your 5th step to your counselor. But what he told me is that was treatment center psychobabble, and that we were going to do the steps in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And what happened is we did the first 3 steps that day, and he laid out step 4 and told me to be back the next week to do step 5. So from the very beginning, I have been in this book. I have been doing these steps. I have been through numerous step studies. I have been learning this book since I got here in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I've been in workshops. I've given workshops. I've done all of the things that we do in AA. I did. We had started here in Jacksonville. We went for about a year and a half, and we did the line by line, and we did the big book that way. We've done read a paragraph. I'm in a big book study right now with a woman that I sponsor that has a big book study on Zoom. But what happened that has been life-changing for me again and again and again is every time I do one of these workshops, every time I'm willing to go learn a little bit more and see it from somebody else's perspective or another way to look at it, however you want to call it, I learn something and I grow. But what happened was I was talking to Paula one day, and Tally alluded to this. I was talking to Paula one day, and she said something about doing a step study with Marty J. Well, I've known Marty for over 30 years. And I said, step study with Marty J. What is he doing? She said, oh, he's going to take the women I sponsor. We're going to go through this step study with Marty. And I said, well, I want to do it. And what happened is that Lions Step Study series, what is absolutely life-changing. It is life-changing. And I did that step study, and I said to Marty, I want to do it again. I want to do it again. And then he called me, and I wasn't going to be able to do it on the day he wanted to do it. And he said to me, well, I was doing that because you wanted to do it. I said, you have to do it. You have to do it because Rena wants to do it. And what has happened is that the amazing Rena Kay is now doing that step study. And she is absolutely magnificent. And it has been absolutely life-changing to the women I sponsor, to the friends that I know. It has given me the opportunity. I've had to do a fourth step, give my fifth to Rena. I'm getting to listen because so many of the women I sponsor now are on the step study that she's doing. And I think this is the second time she'll be doing it. I'm sure many times they're going to do a live one out in Tampa in September. I mean, it is endless. If we just stay in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, everything becomes life-changing. I never will forget, and Paula was part of this, when Mike McKellop started doing the Zoom. I didn't even know what Zoom was because I wasn't working in corporate America. I didn't know what Zoom was. And what has happened is everything that happens in God's world works for good. I know that. At the time, it may not look like it because maybe it does look like death is all around us and things are happening. But what happens is that there is something good in everything that happens. And because of Zoom, we have been connected to the world. It's not, I mean, some of us don't get to go all over the world. I've had the opportunity to travel and go to different places, but sometimes we don't all get to do that. But there's a million places I haven't been to. And I have been able to go to so many of those places on Zoom. I even got to go to Iran on Zoom. We're going places and doing things we've never been before. And I can't see that but anything but an amazing blessing that God opened up. And everything that happens, even though it looks like the worst thing that could ever happen, it turns out to be a blessing. And God uses it for his glory. It is used in a positive way. And it has, from now, because we didn't get to go to open meetings, you get to, but what I do, I love it for you who lecture video show. Because what happens is I look around at the faces because I don't want to look at myself. So I look around at all the faces that I see on Zoom, and it's absolutely amazing. One of the things that has been an absolute blessing for me is that I have always been sponsored in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I have had 3 sponsors. My first sponsor, Frank, I had for 5 years. I heard a woman speak in Austin, Texas, when I was 3 years sober. And I said, if I'm ever anywhere where this woman is, I'm going to ask her to sponsor me. And I ended up running off with Dave Pistol. I did not start that relationship in it was not in the usual way. I ran off with him, got divorced after running off, and then we got married. So by God's grace, he worked all that out. But the start was really rocky. And Dave and I have been married 41 years now. But what happened is Dave took a job in Southern California. And as soon as I got to Southern California, I called the intergroup office and I asked if they knew a woman by the name of Dottie Harris. And they did, and they gave me her phone number. And not only that, she knew Frank that had helped me in Texas because he was a priest and he had gotten sober at Long Beach Naval Hospital. And he's who told me, Holly, I found God in AA and I'm a priest. And you'll take that Southern Baptist religion and you'll be able to see that God, you can find God in AA. You can find God in the people. You don't have to be stuck. You can find God. And what has happened is Dottie introduced me to her God, which was very sweet. And her God allowed me to do repeat for correction. I had a husband who was sick. I had kids I couldn't take care of. And today I've been able to repeat for correction. I've been able to be a good grandma, and I've been able to help Dave and take care of him. I have been able to do all the things that I thought were the worst thing in my life. All of those things God has brought full circle and has made it an absolute blessing. And what happens is I just can't wait to see what God's going to do next, because every time it just gets better and better. When I think it is the worst thing that can happen, it turns out to be my greatest blessing. And thank you so much for letting me be on your Zoom today. Thanks again, Al.